Welcome back, everybody. It is so great to be back at planning things and reading things and researching things and making and editing videos. It's been it's been about a month since I've been live, and so just again want to say welcome back, and this will be a fun, interesting uh, trial transcript reading. It's pre-recorded, so it's there won't be very much interruption during the reading, basically. So let me get Cherie back on stage. There she is, or I don't recall. Hello, Cherie.
Hello, everyone.
Yeah. So I'm just welcoming everybody back and letting everyone know how good it is for us to be back. It's it's been a little bit of time, and we're ready to get back at it and get through the rest of these accusers. Today, though, we're finishing with the Carla Raines accusations. So we're going to finish up with her trial testimony, and then we're going to move into, I believe, the next accuser on Bates' timeline on his podcast, I believe, is Rosetta Great, if I'm not mistaken. Cherie, do you recall for sure?
That sounds like it. Yeah, I can double check, but I'm pretty sure
it's okay.
It's her.
Yeah, it's okay. I think it is. I think it's Carla Raines. So it's we'll just be moving right along. Excuse me. Sorry, I've been having a weird throat thing. So, but first of all, I just want to say that I don't know if folks saw in the community post this week that I put a kind of a card or a wish up on the community post, wishing Daniel a happy birthday on December 10th. So December 10th is his birthday, and sadly, it's also the same day that he was found guilty on that the verdict came in, which I don't know. It was just a coincidence. I'm not a fan of coincidences, but it was just a coincidence that it happened to happen on his birthday, which just sucks. I mean, it's kind of like somebody, passing away on your birthday, or, something like that. It's just really not a pleasant, I don't know, not a pleasant memory. But Daniel doesn't think. Go ahead, Cherie.
Like rubbing salt in a wound, I guess, makes it even worse to me.
Yeah, it just sucks. I just realized I don't have headphones on, but it's okay. I can get that done when we get the transcript started, or get the video started. So I'm going to hello. I'm going to okay. I need to chat amongst yourselves in the chat. I'm going to put my headphones on. Chat amongst yourselves in the chat. I'm going to put my headphones on. Okay. Can everyone hear me?
Loud and clear.
Oh, I just can't hear you guys. Oh my goodness. Can everyone hear me?
Loud and clear. Technical difficulties. technical difficulties.
I'm so annoyed right now. I haven't done a live stream in about a month, and it seems that apparently you forget every fucking thing when you don't do a live stream in a month. I'm having.
People always say mute your YouTube, but I know you know that.
I don't have a. When you don't do a live stream in a month, I'm having.
People always say mute your YouTube, but I know.
Oh, that's what it is. Thank you. Good God. Oh, for hell's sake. Oh, yeah, thank you, Voice of the People. I'm gonna do that right now. Oh, this is embarrassing. Anyway, so while I'm getting everything properly set up, let me, and why isn't it finding my headphones?
We're hearing you on this end.
Yeah, I just can't. I can't find my speaker, my headphones in the settings. Help! Are disabled while live. Okay. And it makes me so frustrated because I went through all of this last week. I told Cherie something's not working. I couldn't get into my oh, for crying out loud. Anyway, so let me just I can't hear you guys very well through the speaker. So, but I'm going to do some really quick changes here really fast. So I hadn't done a live stream for quite some time, as everyone knows. And I had somehow got locked out of my Streamyard account, and I couldn't get back in. And every time I would try to sign in, it would take me to Case by Case's studio, Amy's studio, where she works on she presents things about the Ashley Garth case. So that was the only studio I could get into, no matter what I did. It was so frustrating. At any rate, I managed to figure it out, and got it all figured out. Okay, so then I had yes, thank you, Cherie. We do appreciate your patience. Let me just run through the chat really quick and say hello to some folks. So we have a message that I had got from Jazznaz Gaming much earlier this morning. And he said it was glad that we were back. And yes, we're excited as well. Voice of the People, whose voice you will be hearing on this trial testimony today. He is going to be reading the part of Rocky Gregory and Galen Gigger. So it's nice to have a male voice back in the readings. Voice doesn't know Richard is his name. He doesn't know anything about Daniel's case, which is fine. You don't have to know anything about it to read the transcript, right? So he came in, and before we decided, plan to record, I sent him a clip of Rocky Gregory in the Michelle Malkin interview, and then of course the transcript ahead of time. So he was able to get in and get an idea of what kind of a dickhole Rocky Gregory is. So anyway, he's in the chat now. He's not excited to hear his own voice. As I said, this is a pre-recorded transcript. So he's not excited to hear his own voice playback, and I get it. I feel the same way. I never listen to videos once I've finished a live stream and it's uploaded. I just can't. Makes me uncomfortable. So that leaves you guys stuck with listening to my voice and, either being fine with it or not. Anyway, I'm a little nervous, so bear with me. So we have Voice of the People, or Richard. You can call him Richard if you want to, I suppose. And K Bean, also great to see you. Thank you so much for your support, and thanks for dropping links today. In the chat on Robert's channel, for folks to come over and check out Richard or Voice. And between yesterday and this morning or this afternoon, when I last got into my YouTube studio, 2 days ago, I had 122 subscribers, I believe. Between K Bean and dropping links yesterday and today in the chat on Robert's channel, I've gone from 622 subs to 632 subs. You guys, that's amazing.
Awesome.
Isn't that awesome? I'm so excited. It's been a slow process for us. It's been 4 years now, Cherie, that we've had the channel, and
I believe so.
So we definitely, it took probably 3 years just to get to 500 subs. And that was a lot of campaigning from other folks, other YouTubers and things that, really jumped in and helped, get the subs up for us to get me to 500. Excuse me. So anyway, that, we got up to 500, and it's been a little bit quicker getting from the 5 to where we are now. It's been a little faster. But it's okay. It's not about, this isn't about, as I've said before, it's not about making money, for the channel. It's, or for me, it's about getting this content, getting this case out into the public and making people more aware of it. So go ahead, Cherie.
I just said 100%. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's our whole purpose. Carolyn Hall, it's great to see you. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate your support. If you don't know anything about this case, Daniel Holtzclaw's case, I recommend going to, go to holtzclawtrial.com and Bates Investigates and podcast. I should put those in the description, but I didn't. I'll put those links in the description, and we can drop them here when we start the transcript. But if you don't understand anything or don't know anything about it, definitely check those out if you're interested. So we had this discussion in another chat recently. Rich says, you can even call me by the shortened name of Richard. I live up to that more than my full name. Haha. I would never call you Dick, but Detective Rocky Gregory, absolutely. So, but I just call him Rich or Richard. So those of you who have come over from Robert's channel or Off Label Podcast, thank you so much. And Rich, I'll put your link in the description for Off Label Podcast, so that you can I want to show support for your channel as well. So what has happened is I had all of this transcript. We had fun. I think we had fun recording the other, I think it was last weekend, maybe, or the weekend before even. And So, we did the recording and it went really well. We had fun. We had some sound issues, and obviously I'm having technical issues. I don't know what is going on lately, but um, I had, some technical issues today. Anyway, we had a good time reading the transcript. Richard had his little cues that I had given to him to watch and to read. So he kind of had an idea, and he asked me what should I, what kind of character is this guy? So, um, Cherie, why don't you tell the folks in chat really quick what kind of character Detective Rocky Gregory is?
Uh, infuriating, just lies, not very smart.
Yeah.
Those are the first words that come to mind. What comes to mind for you?
Yeah, ditto on all of that. Dick hole. You guys know how I love. That's one of my favorite phrases. He is a liar and so frustrating. And this particular trial testimony, and I think I might have indicated it in the description somewhere, is particularly irritating because, um, yeah, no, definitely not family free. Yeah, I'll give that warning too, Richard, so that everyone's aware. Um, Definitely not a family friendly channel. Um, but it's okay. I enjoy the content, and that's really what matters to me. And so, he just, if you've watched any of the previous accusers where he's been involved, you can see how he lies between the police report and, his recordings. If we get recordings from him from accuser interviews, he stretches the truth or lies, or you can hear him, trying to coax, I guess, coerce isn't the right word, but coax an accusation from these accusers, which he absolutely did with Carla Raines. And Carla Raines, I think in a couple of community posts back, if you didn't re-listen to that first episode for the Carla Raines uh, series, definitely check it out, because you can hear Gregory coaxing her to admit or accuse Daniel Holtzclaw of some form of sexual assault, and he coaxes her into that. And I believe it's 5 separate times in that recorded interview that you get to hear. She says no, 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 nothing like that ever happened to me. And it's really frustrating, and you have to listen to that really close, because there's 2 separate dates when Daniel Holtzclaw actually did stop Carla. One was July, I think it was 10th, 2013, and then the most recent one, and the one he was accused of, the stop he was accused of assaulting her on, was in March. I can't remember the exact date, but March something 2014. But you can hear Rocky. Anyway, just listen to, I go to the community page, or we can post the link for it. Go and listen to that episode, and listen to Rocky Gregory completely coerce her into making an accusation. So Kay Bean, you're awesome. You're doing some research here, and I love it. So Kay Bean has, here's the Bates Investigates, a link for the truth about Daniel's case, and you can listen to it on Spotify, or I listen to it on Podbean, or I think, I don't remember which one I listened to it on, but it's on you can listen anywhere you get a podcast. You can listen to Bates Investigates, and he has, I think, 24 episodes on that series. So it's really, I listened to that before I made a decision on how I felt about Daniel's case. I'm kind of explaining because most of the folks that I'm seeing in chat are brand new to the channel. So I just trying to give some backstory a little bit if I can. So anyway, check out the podcast. It's definitely, I don't know. It made me very, very angry and very, very determined and passionate about finding out more about this case. And didn't take long for me to start believing that this man, Daniel Holtzclaw, was innocent of all of these charges. And so I'm very passionate in my belief of his innocence. I believe Cherie might feel the same way.
Yes, I do.
I always speak all the time, and Cherie rarely says anything. So you just got to jump in and shut me down, my chatterbox.
You're doing fine.
So K-Bean has put in the chat for you, 11 plaintiffs had their federal lawsuit against Daniel dismissed. Benjamin Crump and his law firm, some of his people in his law firm represented some of these accusers in a federal civil lawsuit against Daniel and the city of Oklahoma City and various other people. So I believe it was about a week before trial, and Cherie and I had been involved in helping make exhibits and all kinds of stuff. How we worked our butts off. Right, Cherie? With
Yep.
It it was insane, the work that we were doing. I'm not talking just about days or hours. I'm talking about months trying to get these exhibits ready for the civil lawsuit trial, which Daniel really wanted to go forward with. But Benjamin Crump and his the other guys in his firm, and then other various attorneys that were representing the 11 plaintiffs, they just, their arguments were, I don't know, Cherie, can you describe the arguments, how you think? I don't know.
Well, they didn't know the case, for one thing. That they were all over the place.
Right. And they definitely were, hi, Jennifer. It's great to see you under your scars. Hey, girl, it is so good to see you. Donna, I haven't spoken to Daniel again since our last conversation in order to pass your message along, but I will as soon as he's working. So, he fortunately doesn't have as much time as he used to write back and things like that. So, but I promise I haven't forgotten, and I will let him know. So I have K Bean, Voice of the People, Jennifer, Carolyn Hall. Who else has popped in from Robert's channel? So yeah. Anyway, it's really impossible to try to explain this case to you guys if you don't know anything about it, because it's so complex. Basically, there were 13 accusers, and they had one trial with 13 accusers, and it just was it was just insane to try to. It should have never been tried that way. I'm not trying to badmouth Daniel's defense attorney at the time. His job was incredibly, insanely difficult because he had an investigator who was Brian Bates, but the case was so involved and so complex. It was impossible for one attorney to try, to do this trial. And he didn't have very much knowledge. He didn't know as much as he should have known or needed to know. And so, although I think he does a better job in this transcript that we're going to listen to, he doesn't do a great job, in my mind, for, most of the other accusers. Sometimes he gets in really good questions, but, there's times when he should be objecting to whatever, for whatever reason, and he just doesn't. And sometimes in past trial transcript readings, you can hear me or anybody else reading saying, "Objection, Your Honor," because he just doesn't object like he should. And anyway, so as I've been, let's see, KB, the fact that they chickened out of the civil trial where the standard of a preponderance of an evidence is 51% is suspicious. Yeah, that's what we think too. A week before the trial, they dropped out. They dropped the suit. And it was just infuriating. I mean, it's infuriating for a couple of reasons, because Daniel wanted to go to trial to do that civil suit, because we were able to, the exhibits that we had been preparing, we were able to, show, I don't know if I would say new evidence, but I don't know, Cherie, new evidence or pointing out things that may not have been. Yeah, go ahead.
Both new evidence and unused evidence would have been brought to light, and would have been able to cross-examine them, and a lot harder than what happened the first time.
Right. Yeah, so I just wish I could just, there, for those of you who aren't familiar and you don't want to listen to the podcast or go to holtzclawtrial.com, you can go back. Cherie, I don't know how quickly you can find the link for the beginning of Inside the Wrongful Conviction, episode 1, and post that, the Janie Liggins accusation, because that's where it started for the most part. But anyway, so great comments. Unless there's something wrong. If you win a criminal trial, you're guaranteed a civil trial win, unless there's something wrong. And there is everything wrong in this case. Corrupt, lying accusers, corrupt detectives and lieutenants, and an entire force, honestly. Not necessarily the direct police department that Daniel worked in. It wasn't anybody in his, not his, work colleagues in that sense, but, the higher ups who really screwed him over. So, trying to see if this finished uploading. If it did, it didn't tell me. Let me see if I can get it. But anyway, they just, it looks like it's ready. They just, they're just corrupt. There's an interrogation video, if you're not familiar, of Daniel. The day that the first alleged assault occurred, he does the stupidest thing, especially for a cop, by not, he waived all of his rights. He waived his rights. And it's the most infuriating thing that he did, that we just like, and everybody who watches it, or people who, making comments, attorney. Yeah, we know, lawyer. Why he waived his rights is really unknown. He fell into that, especially at that time. Daniel had been a police officer for, I believe, about 3 years. And he was still naive and young at the too naive to stop and think, yeah, even if it's you that's being questioned and it's you being questioned by your superiors, you have to ask for an attorney. And he didn't do that. He waived his rights, and it's infuriating. And ultimately, of course, he was assigned after a 2 hour long interrogation, and being put on leave. He was, oh, I lost my train of thought, because that happens to me. You guys know that about me. I lose my train of thought. Anyway, he was put on leave, and, stripped of all of his, officer privileges or rights or whatever. And, by this time he had a FOP attorney, representing him. But in the end, before the trial, before he was even gone to trial, FOP shit on him. And, they fucked him over too. And he just, it's rough. It's a rough case. I'm telling you, those of you who are new to this channel, I am 100% innocent on Daniel. And I don't expect anybody to just buy my opinion or my what I think. If you're interested, go do the research for yourself, and find out for yourself. So this video is finally ready. Gosh, so I had to replace some assets in my video editing, and so I had to re-upload the. Oh, where did Cherie go? No, stop. I had to re-upload the video at any rate. So, anyway, I'm going to try to get through. Cherie, where did you go? Oh, there you are. I'm so sorry. And Streamyard is different. You guys, I don't know how many use Streamyard, or I know Richard does or has, but it's changed so much in the last year, in the last few months, actually, and it's caused me grief. So it's been really annoying. But so I'm still trying to get used to some of these new Streamyard things as well. But I do want to go back and catch these comments really quick before we start the transcript. K Bean says, this doesn't happen very often in these organizations, but when it does, it's really bad. Absolutely. Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's what we see here with Daniel's case. Jennifer, my sweet sunshine sister, thank you. K Bean says, I'm referring to the top people throwing someone to the wolves. That's K-Bean, that's exactly what they did to Daniel. A lot of people have their different opinions about it. Well, he was a fall guy, or he knew too much, or he must have had dirt on somebody at the time. It was none of those things. Before I make my next comment, I don't discuss politics whatsoever on my channel. That's not what this case is about. I keep politics completely out of it. Unfortunately, there are some aspects of politics that do come into it, simply by, an organization. You have a law enforcement organization, and they're corrupt. Again, I don't know if I've made this clear, but this is in Oklahoma City, and this began in 2014. So it's, to me, and I've studied, I've looked at other cases and researched and, taken, a lot of time looking into other cases from other states. And there are other states that are horribly corrupt, and you can tell. You can see by the way their conviction rates, their prosecutors, their justice system in general. You can just see and read and hear the corruption. Oklahoma City, in my opinion, is one of, I would say, my own personal opinion, in the top 5, in the top 3 for me, as far as corruption in the system. So that is just a political thing all on its own. As far, obviously, elected judges and DAs and all that stuff. And it really was Daniel's case where I finally realized, whoa, his case is where I lost probably any string or thread of appreciation for prosecutors that I might have had, which was very, 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 very thin. I just lost all of my appreciation or respect or anything, because the prosecution, the state in Daniel's case, is so corrupt. And eventually I'm going to put out another video, probably after we get finished with all of the accusers. And after everybody's had a chance to hear all of, the prosecutors, whatevers. When you hear this video that I'm going to put out, probably in the middle of next year sometime, you're going to be really shocked. Maybe not. All of you people in the chat that I can see, none of you are going to be shocked. You all know. So anyway, I had to re-upload the video because there were assets in it that I had used in editing that I had not paid for. So I had to replace them or pay for them. And I couldn't pay for them at that moment, so I had to replace them. So the video is now ready. Woohoo! And we're going to go ahead and get it started. And I know some of you are may have to, you might have to, leave to go to Rob's live stream. Hopefully not, but it's possible. And if you do, that's fine. You can finish it later. But because this transcript is about, I think I edited it down to, I think, about an hour and 20 minutes or something like that, something close. So anyway, without further ado, now that I've rambled on, I want to say hello to Liam. Liam, it's so great to see you. I miss you. Your song was beautiful. Cherie, Liam has a YouTube channel, and he plays guitar, and he doesn't post very much, but he just recently posted a Christmas tune. So if you can find his YouTube channel and just drop it in the link, that would be amazing.
Is just his name? Is that what it is?
I think it's just Liam Wakefield, yeah, if I'm not mistaken. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get this started. Rich is probably left by now. He's probably like, just play the thing so I can hear my fucking voice so we can. But now that it's ready to go, here we go. We are reading the trial transcripts of Detective Rocky Gregory in Carla Raines' case, November 16th, 2015.
State calls Detective Gregory.
All right, Detective, let me remind you, you're still under oath.
Detective Gregory, tell the jury how you got Carla Raines' name in this case.
When we come across the investigation references Officer Holtzclaw, we started going through Varna's records at first. Detective Davis and I's supervisor, Lieutenant Munsey, had started going through the list of female subjects that Officer Holtzclaw had run during his certain time period. We eventually ended up having to expand that the more victims we got. In doing so, you come across certain females that had run, then we would have to run their history, prostitution, drug arrests, things of that nature. And then he put together a list, which again, that list did expand. And then we would go and try to contact those females to see if there were any victims.
And just to be clear, Detective Gregory, is this the same method that you used and told the jury about with respect to Tabitha Barnes?
That's correct.
And did you make an effort to make contact with Carla Raines?
Yes, I did.
Tell me about how you did.
When I first saw Carla Raines' name, I tried to go back in her history as far as like phone numbers, try to call those, left messages, and also eventually led me to the last resident she had. And it was, I left a card there, and then Carla did contact me back.
And as you've had an opportunity to sit here in the courtroom and listen to the Defendant's Exhibit 2, which was just played, which was the interview with Carla Raines, correct?
Yes.
During that interview, did you hear yourself and Miss Raines allude to a phone call that the two of you had together?
Yes, she called me back just kind of to see what it was in reference to. I had to be kind of vague and to reference what I was trying to ask about her. I couldn't tell her Officer Holtzclaw's name. I didn't want to just lead her in a certain direction, and I just kind of advised her to receive a tip that maybe she was sexually assaulted. And she kind of hem-hawed around like there had been something, but she didn't quite want to say. So I asked if I could come to her residence at the time, and she agreed to meet me.
Prior to your interview that we've just listened to with Miss Raines, did the two of you just have that one phone call?
Yeah, it was very short-lived. It wasn't very long. That's correct.
Did you give her any specific information regarding dates or locations that you thought that an assault might have occurred at?
No.
In that phone interview?
No.
During that interview that we've listened to, there was some noise prior whenever you actually started speaking with Miss Raines. Did you hear that?
The locust?
Sure. But did you and Miss Raines talk at all prior to you recording that in-person interview?
No, I mean, we talked very briefly just on the phone. That was it.
So whenever we hear you greeting Miss Raines, that is in fact the first face-to-face contact you had with her?
That's correct.
During the interview that we just listened to, you also didn't tell her which officer you were looking for?
That's correct.
We've heard, and we're going to hear some more with regard to Miss Raines, but the automated vehicle locator, is that correct?
That's correct.
Automated vehicle locator. Did you have any information as to that with regard to Mrs. Raines prior to when you interviewed her?
No, I did not.
Why not?
We didn't put the AVL until after we had spoke with the victim and they had started to confirm maybe some of the things that have happened to them if they were indeed the victim. It wasn't until that time that we would check into the AVL. We were only just going off the list and then trying to make contact with the girls to see if they had been assaulted in this manner that we've shown.
So during the interview, whenever Miss Raines tells you about this contact that occurred at Northeast 16th near Fonshire, did you have any information as to whether or not Officer Holtzclaw had even contact with Miss Raines at that location?
Yes, well, not at that location, no.
You knew. You know he had contact with her, period.
Right. I did not know it was at that specific location at that time before I contacted or spoke with Miss Raines.
During the first part of the interview, was Miss Raines somewhat reluctant to talk to you?
Judge, object to the form of the question.
Sustained.
What was Mrs. Raines' demeanor like whenever you first encountered her?
She seemed to be extremely nervous. She was talking real fast. I could tell she got the sense that maybe she thought she was in some trouble for something.
And was that suspicion confirmed as you progressed through your interview with Miss Raines?
Yes.
How so?
She kind of advised just by kind of talking with me that she didn't think she was in trouble. Could have been over the past prostitution thing or just in regards to her past.
And at first, was Miss Raines talking to you about whether someone had exposed themselves to her before she talked about what happened with Officer Holtzclaw?
I'm sorry?
During the first part of your interview, did Miss Raines appear to be confused at all by your question?
Yeah, I was being so vague. She didn't know she didn't know really what I was specifically talking about. I was trying not to give her information just to pinpoint exactly what I was there for, Officer Holtzclaw. I was just there for maybe an incident with an officer in general.
And in regard to your investigation, with regard to Carla Raines, did you acquire certain Oklahoma City Police Department materials from the archives, OCPD, to assist you with your investigation?
Yes.
And Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
You may.
Detective Gregory, I'm handing you what is marked as State's Exhibits 189 through 195. If you'll take a look at those and tell me if you recognize them.
Yes, I do.
And just briefly, Detective Gregory, how do you recognize these documents?
These are records that we had Oklahoma City Police Department kept. And this is the AVL records. This is the Crime Information Unit where Carla Raines was ran for warrants. This is the CAD call that we had made in reference to the traffic stop in question. This is the Varna report for Carla being ran by the detective by Officer Holtzclaw on July 10th of 2013. And the Varna list of Officer Holtzclaw running her on March 14th of 2014. This is the lineup is in reference to March 14th, showing Officer Holtzclaw was on duty. And this is his Officer Holtzclaw's daily activity report showing where he was on a subject Northeast 16th and Kate on the specified date.
Your Honor, I would move to admit State's Exhibit 189 through 195.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, State's Exhibit number 189, 190, 191, 192, 193, 194, 195 will be admitted.
May I publish, Your Honor?
You may publish.
Detective Gregory, I'm showing you State's Exhibit 189. Is this the automated vehicle locator for Miss Raines' encounter with Officer Holtzclaw?
Yes.
I'm going to zoom in. Well, and maybe I shouldn't have done that so quickly, Detective Gregory. What area are we looking at here?
This is Northeast 16th.
This street right here?
Yes, ma'am.
And then this intersecting street with Northeast 16th, what is that street? I can zoom in so you can get a better...
I know that's in reference to between Fonshell and Kate. I can't remember at this time which one east and which one was west of that location.
And may I approach the witness, Judge?
You may.
I don't think you can see it because it's in yellow, but I believe you can make out a street name there, Detective Gregory.
That's Fonshell Avenue.
Okay, so this street that intersects right here is Fonshell?
Yes.
Okay, going back to our data points, do you see that on March 14, 2014, that Officer Holtzclaw was at 0 knots per minute at 11:22:26 p.m.?
Yes.
And again, we see a 0 knots per minute speed at March 14, 2014 at 11:27:27 p.m.
Yes.
So with our knowledge that there can be a 4-minute and 59-second lag on either side, is it fair to say that Officer Holtzclaw could have been stopped there from anywhere between 5 to 13 minutes before he moved?
Yes.
Your Honor, I object, and may I approach?
Come on up.
Judge, I thought I understood the AVL. Maybe it's just a math problem I'm not doing very good with right now, but I'm just trying to figure out how we got to 13.
Testimony was it can go up to 4 minutes and 59 seconds before it clicks over to the next one.
That's my understanding as well, Judge.
But it shows he's moving.
Okay, I can't even see that, so I don't know.
And Judge, just to be clear, it shows him at 2 points at 0 speeds. Are those 2 minutes are about 5 minutes apart. So on either side of those two data points, that's how I got to the 13 number. And Judge, I will say that prior to 11:22:26 minute time he was moving at 11:17, so you know there's about a 5-minute lag there. Mr. Geiger just pointed out to me something that I probably would have realized in a second, but hadn't yet, which is that Officer Holtzclaw seems to be moving again at 11:28:54. So I'll clear up the time with respect to that, although for counsel's knowledge, there's a 4-minute, 59-second lag on either side.
It's really for the jury. It's not really for me.
And just to be specific, Detective Gregory, at this data point that I'm pointing to with my pen right now at 11:17:26 p.m., did he have a speed of 11 knots per minute?
Yes.
So roughly 11 miles.
Yes.
Okay. And our next data point is the 11:22:26 p.m., where we know that he stopped because he has a 0 speed.
Yes.
So we don't know whether he was stopped, what time he was stopped between 11:17:26 point and the 11:22:26 point, correct?
Yes.
Okay, then I think I mentioned to you, Detective Gregory, or you just testified, that 11:27:27 p.m. he also was at 0 speed right here.
That's correct.
But we know that he's moving again in this direction. I guess that would be west, is that correct?
Yes.
At 11:28:54 p.m.?
That's correct.
So we know that he was moving at 11:17:26 and 11:28:54 from this exhibit.
Yes, he was moving.
Okay, so that leaves about anywhere from a 5-minute to 12-minute period of time where we're unsure. Is that correct, Detective?
Yes.
May I have a brief moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Moving to State's Exhibit 190, is this a CIU log?
Yes, it is.
Okay, where you check for warrants?
Yes.
And showing you the date, was this a CIU log generated on March 14th, 2014?
Yes.
The same time that the stop that we previously looked at on the automated vehicle locator.
That's correct.
And do you see that Carla Raines was ran on March 14th, 2014?
Yes.
And Charlie 45, the unit running her, is that Officer Holtzclaw's number back in March 14th of 2014?
Yes.
And if we go to the disposition, was she clear for any type of warrants at that time?
Yes, she was.
Looking at State's Exhibit 191, Detective, is that the incident detail report or the call report, as we've heard?
Yes.
Is it for a call that happened on March 14th, 2014 around, what would that be, 11:19:42 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay, and what location does it show?
Northeast 16th Street and North Kate Avenue.
Okay, and just to be clear for the jury, Detective Gregory, earlier you told me that this intersection that we're looking at was 16th and Fonshill, with the street on the other side that's not depicted by Kate,
Yes.
the street west of Fonshill.
Yes.
And on State's Exhibit 191, do we see that the personnel assigned was 1782 Daniel Holtzclaw?
Yes.
And moving down, he closed out the call at 23:28:54.
Yes. A dispatcher did.
So if the call started at 23:19 and then went to 23:28, it was about 9 minutes. I guess that would be, is my math correct, Detective Gregory?
It's correct.
Okay. And similar, as we've heard you testify earlier this morning, Detective Gregory, this Kristen Powell is that the dispatcher assigned to this call?
Yes.
And she would have been the one to close it out versus Officer Holtzclaw pressing a number on his computer?
Yes.
I'm showing you State's Exhibit 192. If I can get down there without giving you motion sickness, is this a Varuna sheet?
Yes, it is.
And this is the system where an officer can check someone's prior reports or contacts that they've had with Oklahoma City Police Department specifically.
That's correct.
And is this was Carla Raines on this Varuna sheet?
Yes.
Specifically on July 10th of 2013
Yes.
by Daniel Holtzclaw?
That is correct.
Now, July 10th, 2013 is not the date that we've been talking about so far, correct, Detective Gregory?
That's correct.
Did you look during your investigation at times that Officer Holtzclaw may have come in contact with victims other than maybe the incident that had divulged to you?
Yes.
What was the purpose of that?
Again, for verification of the victim's story.
Did Miss Raines give you any information as to having been assaulted in any way by Officer Holtzclaw on July 10th, 2013?
No.
Was that significant to you?
Yes.
Why?
Again, it's just verifying her story timeline.
And I'm showing you also State's Exhibit 193. Is that also a Varuna sheet?
Yes.
And is this Varuna sheet for March 14th, 2014, the date that we've been talking about?
Yes.
And it shows that he ran her at 11:19 p.m. Is that right?
That's correct.
And is that consistent with what Miss Raines told you?
Yes. She wasn't for sure on the time period, but yes, the location with this time, that is correct.
And I'm showing you State's Exhibit 194. Based on State's Exhibit 194, were you able to make a determination as to whether or not Officer Holtzclaw was on duty on the date of March 14th, 2014?
Yes, he was.
He was on duty?
Yes.
And looking at State's Exhibit 195, I'll zoom out for a moment to get your bearings. Is that a daily activity sheet?
Yes, it is.
Specifically for March 14th, 2014?
Yes.
And here on line 8, do you see where Officer Holtzclaw has reported his contact at Northeast 16th and Kate?
Yes.
From about 23:20 to 23:30, correct?
I can't see the times.
Okay, from about 23:20 to 23:30.
Yes.
And this 00S, he's classified, that's out of subject?
That's correct.
In their entirety taken together, Detective Gregory, were these documents significant to you in your investigation with regards to Carla Raines?
Yes.
Why?
Because this all verifies the information that she was giving me on her knowledge of her assault.
May I have a brief moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Pass the witness.
All right.
Detective Gregory, you would agree with me that you're trained not only as a detective, but as a police officer with regards to writing reports.
Yes.
And it's very important to be truthful and accurate, but to give both sides of the story that you're hearing from an individual witness, correct?
Yes.
And you know that eventually what happens is those reports are turned over to members of the accused or the other side that you're on, and they rely upon those for their truthfulness and accuracy, correct?
Yes.
Whenever you had an opportunity to talk to Ms. Raines, you had a phone conversation with her that was not recorded. Is that a fair statement?
That's correct.
And then the second conversation, which has been admitted into evidence, is this audio conversation you had at her mother's house with Ms. Raines, correct?
That's correct.
You would agree that you dictated a report and that it was signed off by your supervisor in this case. You dictated a report approximately on the 15th day of August 2014, correct?
That sounds right.
And it was approved by your supervisor. Is it Lieutenant Musney?
Yes.
Would you agree with me that nowhere in that report is there any mention of you asking her whether or not she had been required to expose herself to a member of the Oklahoma City Police Department and she told you no?
That's correct.
Okay. And you said that whenever you started this interview, you tried to be vague with her so that she wouldn't know what you were talking about, correct?
Tried to.
And you said that it didn't appear that she knew what you were talking about. What is vague about have you been required to expose yourself to an officer here in Oklahoma City? What is vague about that someone would not understand?
That question wasn't. No.
And then you went on and asked her on more than one occasion whether or not basically anything inappropriate had happened, and she continually tells you no.
She did tell me no in the beginning. She also let me know, as you heard, that she couldn't talk in front of her mother. She didn't want her knowing.
Okay, but you would agree, even if her mother's there or not, that none of these no's are mentioned anywhere in your report, are they?
No.
And in fact, what happens is she doesn't even begin to come close to talking about anything that happened that allegedly happened back in March of 14 until you tell her you're investigating a bad guy.
Right. Again, that's just kind of vague questions and letting her know some information without laying it all out there for her.
Then you went on. She still didn't enclose any information. You told her that you had a lot of victims.
Correct.
Then you went on and told her, well, this is how we got your name, was this short, it's a short list.
I don't remember if I said the short list, but I did mention the list.
And you told her that no one was coming to you, that you were having to go to them, trying to make her feel like it was going to be okay to say something, right?
Yes. Make her feel comfortable.
And then after that, she talks in an abstract term about other things that are going on in the neighborhood, correct?
Yes.
Then eventually, as you continued to question her, then she starts talking about being over at 16th and Fons Hill, correct? And her run-in with Officer Holtzclaw.
I didn't think she took that long. But once she kind of started feeling comfortable, she did jump into it.
Let me back up. Why at this point have you not documented anywhere in your report that not only has she said no to 5 different occasions to where you asked her if she's been sexually assaulted, exposed, or made to do anything inappropriate, and she tells you no, why is that not documented anywhere in your report?
The report is a synopsis.
So from now on, I need to look at reports as just being a synopsis that you intentionally leave things out.
A synopsis is just kind of gives you an overview of what we have. I mean, obviously we had the recording. Try to record everything.
I thought you just testified that you've been to school and you knew how important it was to be accurate and truthful in regards to your reports.
Yes, and that report is truthful and accurate.
Well, that report certainly doesn't ever mention her saying no to any of those questions, now does it?
No.
And it certainly doesn't mention anything about you telling her anything about this list that you have.
No, it doesn't.
And it certainly doesn't have anything in there about that this is really a bad guy, does it?
No,
And it certainly didn't have anything in there about you've got a lot of victims, does it?
no.
You left out everything that you had to encourage her to say anything, and then you just write the report as she supposedly just came right out of the chute and started talking about it, didn't you?
Right. The report was in reference to her assault. And just like the report says, it explains her assault.
But it doesn't explain everything that she really said to you, does it?
No, it explained everything that I needed for the report, for the synopsis of her report.
It explained everything that you wanted it to say, not necessarily what she said, correct?
Not that I wanted it to say. This is what was said.
Well, then again, I will challenge you. Is there anywhere in this report where you talk about any of the things I've been discussing? Either the nose, the bad guy, that you've got a list and you've got a lot of victims. Is that anywhere in the report?
No.
Tell you what, Mr. Adams, it's right about 5 o'clock, so we'll break for the evening and take your cross-examination up tomorrow morning. Ladies and gentlemen, what we'll do is we'll recess until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. I need to admonish you not to discuss the case, not to try to find out anything about the case. Don't watch any news reports, read any Facebook, anything at all that may be on the computer. If anyone should try to discuss the case with you, contact me or my staff immediately. Mr. Holtzclaw, you'll be excused until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, if you'll leave your notepads in your chair, you'll be in recess until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning.
On November 17th, 2015.
All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Let the record reflect all members of the jury are present. Counsel for the state, counsel for the defendant is present. Detective Gregory, if you will retake the stand.
Your Honor, I have no more questions of Detective Gregory at this time.
All right, is there any redirect?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, Detective Gregory, go ahead and retake the stand. Let me remind you, sir, that you're still under oath.
Yes, sir.
Detective Gregory, yesterday, Mr. Adams had questioned you as to whether you would put the part where Carla Raines had initially denied that anything had happened in your report. Do you remember that line of questioning?
That's correct.
Why did you not put that in your first report, sir?
Well, again, our reports are a synopsis. It's an overview of what took place. And you could hear in the full interview, which I knew the defense was going to get a recording of everything that was said, but it was just, she went over there 3 times with me. I tried to make sure that I understood what she was saying and just kind of cover it to make sure that she was consistent in her storyline and telling me what happened.
And going back to the initial, maybe 5 to 10 minutes of the interview, where Carla Raines initially denies anything having happened, did she seem confused to you at first?
She did. She was so nervous when she first talked to me. As you heard, I felt like she thought she was in trouble. I know her mom was around.
Judge, I would object to any speculation.
All right, sustained.
During the interview, once again, that first 5 to 10 minute portion, did Miss Raines even start to talk about whether an officer had exposed himself to her?
Yes, she did.
And did that indicate that she was confused about your question?
She was really confused.
Since you knew that the DVD recording was going to be furnished to the defense attorney, and once again, your report is just a synopsis, were you trying to deceive in this case?
No, not at all.
It was also specifically mentioned by Mr. Adams that you didn't put in your report about talking to Carla Raines about the list of women's names that you talked to the jury about today and yesterday.
That's correct.
Why did you not mention this list in your report whenever you detailed your interview with Carla Raines?
My supervisor did that part of the report. He's the one who came up with the list, so he is the one who provided the report.
So information about this list and how it was furnished was also summarized in a police report that was given to the state and presumably to defense counsel?
Yes.
You also mentioned Detective Gregory, but I just want to make sure I understand. On the interview, we heard Miss Raines go through her story about what happened with Officer Holtzclaw several times. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And in your report, do you go first time in detail what she told you, second time in detail what she told you, and third time in detail what she told you?
No.
Why not?
It just becomes repetitive. That was for my own knowledge so I could understand what she was saying. I put together a report to make it flow for the reader.
Is your report a transcription or supposed to be a transcription of what occurs during that auto recording?
No.
And yesterday, Detective Gregory, we went over several Oklahoma City Police Department documents that you had acquired as a part of your investigation with regard to Carla Raines. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Did you also accumulate radio traffic from the March 14th, 2014 date with Carla Raines?
Yes.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
May approach.
Detective Gregory, I'm handing you State's Exhibit 196. If you'll tell me if you recognize that.
Yes, I do.
Is that generally how so?
It's the radio traffic that I had pulled for this incident.
Your Honor, the state moves to admit State's Exhibit 196.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, State's Exhibit 1, number 196 will be admitted.
May I publish, Your Honor?
All right, you may publish.
Your Honor, at this time also, may I approach?
Come on up.
I don't have any objection to this exhibit. However, I do object that it's outside the scope of my cross. I didn't cover any of this stuff in cross. The only reason I didn't object is in front of the jury, but I object because it's outside the scope of cross. But other than that, I don't object.
How is this within redirect?
Of his questioning, Your Honor.
I mean, I don't know what it's about, so.
Sure. And I'll tell the court. Yesterday, whenever I was going back over my exhibit, I had meant to put this in during my direct examination. I failed to do so. So I don't know that I have good faith basis to say that it's within the scope of Mr. Adams' fraud. However, Detective Gregory is going to testify throughout the course of his case with regard to several victims. I don't see how it prejudices Mr. Holtzclaw in any way for this radio traffic to come in. It just details what Officer Holtzclaw said on March 14, 2014, when he was out on the call with Carla Raines.
So this is him calling in to dispatch saying, I'm out on a stop?
Yes, and CIU to check her name. Yes, sir.
Okay, and we've got documents already in on that? I'll sustain the objection.
And Detective Gregory, during the 2 times that you spoke with Miss Raines, both the audio recording and the jury has had a chance to listen to and on the phone. Did you ever give Miss Raines any information about a specific officer?
No.
And we heard an audio record that you said that this officer was a really bad guy. But did you tell her any physical appearance criteria or anything to give her information about what officer you were looking into?
No, I did not.
And did you ever give her any information about what location you were asking about?
No.
And in fact, did you even know what location Miss Raines had come in contact with Officer Holtzclaw at?
No.
May I have a brief moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness.
All right, particularly on any new items?
Yes, Your Honor. Detective Gregory, what you just testified to was that your report was simply meant to be a synopsis, correct?
Yes.
And that is absolutely what you're taught in the academy, is just to give a synopsis of what happened, not to be truthful and accurate, correct?
Synopsis is truthful and accurate.
Okay, well, truthful and accurate then, if we listen to the audio tape, you'd agree with me that nowhere in your report does it reflect any of the times that Miss Barnes was stated nothing had happened.
That's correct.
And in addition to that, only way that we know that happens is it requires, you said you knew that this audio tape would be delivered to the defense, correct?
That's correct.
And so the only way we can verify the veracity of it and to determine whether or not you put everything in there is to actually listen to the tape and read your report and determine everything you left out, correct?
That's correct. That's normal standard.
So much bullshit, you guys. Oh my. Cherie and Katnick can tell you he is telling so much fucking bullshit right now. Oh, geez. Okay.
He had
It's
one
normal
good.
standard for you.
For most officers, yes.
Do you know of any other detective in Oklahoma City that has recorded a statement from any suspected victim where they denied any sexual activity whatsoever and they failed to put it in the report other than you?
What I did is very common practice. Most detectives,
And that's not my question. My question is very simple.
the majority of detectives, I do.
I want want a name of a specific detective that's what I'm asking for, that has interviewed an alleged victim in a sexual assault case where the alleged victim denied anything appropriate had happened. They recorded it. They did not list it anywhere in their report, and they turned it over to defense lawyers for them to figure out on their own. Give me the name of the detective.
Do you want several names?
I want any name.
Okay. Detective Porter, Detective Davis, Detective Bessinger, there's Detective Hurst. You want me to keep going?
Want you to give me the name of the defendant now that we can reference this with.
We'd have. I'd have to go back and look at their logs.
Do you understand that this is a verification process we're trying to go through here?
Yes, sir.
And you know that it's highly unprofessional for you to intentionally withhold exculpatory evidence from Mr. Holtzclaw, correct?
Objection. Argumentative. And it's not exculpatory evidence. It was furnished to defense attorney.
If that's not exculpatory,
Well, you can answer if you know.
you know that this is a very serious matter. It would be a very serious for you if we can show that you're withholding exculpatory evidence against Officer Holtzclaw, correct?
There was nothing that was withheld.
That's not my question. My question is very simple. You know that this is a very serious matter, and you can get in very serious trouble for withholding exculpatory material to Officer Holtzclaw, correct?
Again, there was nothing withheld.
Are you going to answer my question, or are we going to play word games? Would you agree with me that you can get in a lot of trouble for intentionally withholding exculpatory evidence from Officer Holtzclaw?
If I did, but I didn't.
Now, in regards to this list that you talked about, you said that that was generated by another officer, correct? The list that you talked about to Ms. Barnes, about in regards to, you have a list that there's a lot of people on that list. Do you recall that?
Yes.
On the video, on the audio tape?
Yes.
Okay, you understand that myself and Mr. Gray have requested this list for in excess of a year and have yet to be provided that list.
Objection. May we approach?
Oh, I'm Mr. Geiger, right?
Yeah,
Glegger.
thank you.
That's his name?
Gigger.
Gigger?
Yes.
Approach, Your Honor.
Come up.
You have the list, Scott.
I don't have the list.
Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
All right, give me a minute.
I have it.
All right, come here. First off, I guess you could ask the detective whether he knows what's been turned over or not. I don't know if he's familiar of what the DA has turned over to you.
Judge, I have specific requests where I specifically requested from the DA's office
We need to take a recess so I can go get it and show it to him.
is handling the witness at this time.
I handle it when you accuse me of discovery violation. I sure do.
It is what it is. I've requested it several times.
And Judge, actually,
Hang on.
I've just located the discovery receipt. On March 3rd, 2015, signed by, I believe this is Mr. Gray, it references several items that we've given over to the defense. Specifically, if you turn to this page, it says, list of women contacted by OCPD who denied any assault.
There's another list as well, Your Honor. This is included in the discovery of every person for that defendant that ran in Verunum. And that list I can get for him. It's in the discovery, I think twice.
The issue right now isn't really whether this detective turned over a list to the defense. The question is whether he made a list and made it available to the DAs. So I will allow questioning about that, and we'll go to the list of whether it was turned over by the DA's office.
For the record, we were told that Detective Jaley had created this list when they contacted a number of people, and they had denied a sexual assault had occurred. However, when we were asked for what that list, we were told it was lost and they could not find it.
The discovery numbers are 178 through 197. It is a list of the entire Veruna activity that was created between December and June of 2014. This is the list that is referenced to Officer Munsey's report, and it is the list that they were going off of. There are women on this list who were contacted and said they were assaulted. There are women on this list who were contacted and said they were not assaulted. And there were women on this list who did not return contact.
Judge, that is the Veruna list.
That's the list that was created, Mr. Adams.
No, it's not. Judge, I have specifically, and I have them in writing, and I'll provide them to the court, where I specifically not only asked them to preserve a list of people that they had contacted where they had denied anything had occurred. I specifically requested that. Secondly, we asked for a list of all the women who were contacted in regards to this investigation, and we were told that Detective Jaley had compiled such list.
Detective who?
Jaley, J-E, we have it. It's in writing.
A list of no's was produced, and it's documented in the discovery receipt dated March 3rd, 2015, signed by the counsel. The other list that was produced by Detective Munsey, which is the list Mr. Gregory just testified to, it's also not a list that contains reports written by Munsey. The same report appeared in, I think, in at least 3 or 4 of the individual cases. This is the list that was compiled. That's the ones that operated on, and that's the ones they worked on.
Judge, they said specifically that they created a list of women who had prostitution and drug arrests, and the court certainly recalls that yesterday. I have number 2 on this list he's provided me is a man. This is not the list we're talking about. This is a Varuna run. I'm asking for the list of individuals that they've identified as victims, which they have never provided to us. And I've asked for it repeatedly.
All right. First thing is these a list of women that the police department believed to be victims? Is there a list of that?
The 2 lists that I'm aware of, Judge, are the 2 that Mr. Geiger has just identified, the Varuna history, and specifically the women who were contacted, which also defense attorneys have provided with that denied any inappropriate contact with Officer Holtzclaw, and that has also been provided.
And we challenge them to provide a list that she just mentioned because we've never seen it.
So this is a list of just everybody Holtzclaw has run?
On Varuna.
List from December 13 to June 14?
Correct. And
so that's really not a list of people identified as victims.
Correct. This is the history of everyone that he ran, which is identified women. There's also another list that was furnished. It's back in our office, Judge, just because there's so much discovery in this case, but it's miscellaneous items number 6 through 7, which is a list of women contacted by OCPD who denied any assault by the defendant.
Have you seen a list?
no,
Women that...
absolutely not.
Are you denying you have the list?
That's not what we're talking about.
Pages 307. There's hundreds. Every person this defendant ever ran through CIU has also been provided in discovery. That's 2 lists that Detective Munsey talks about. Contacted Unit 800, and we gave an entire list of every person ran through CIU. I've got discovery numbers for it and receipt for it. It's every person he ever ran. That's the first thing Detective Munsey says. The second thing he says is that every person that he ran through Varuna, those are the 2 lists. He's had them for months and months, and they're right here, and this is the list.
Okay, I challenge the record. He's holding it in his hand. Show us where the list is.
There's, in case number 14-049050, number 48, is a list of individuals that were run through CIU compiled. It's discovery pages 307, 308, and 309. The hard documents that they support that are then incorporated in, there's also page 311, 312, 313, 314, 315, 316. And then the CIU log starts at page 200 and goes through page 300. And it's every log sheet that contains everybody he has ever ran. Those are the lists we created, and he's had them for months.
This is so fucking frustrating. Okay, Judge,
like that.
Huh? Go ahead.
No. I'm just gonna.
Yeah, they are totally playing word games with him, the defense attorney right now. And
Well, I mean, it kind of goes back to what was it, that credit card company that sued Walmart and they dropped like 7 million pages and told them good luck.
yeah,
It's kind of like that. What he's doing, I got all of this right here. You piece it together.
right. Well, kind of, but it's not really even. They did give him
I'm sorry, I
everybody.
derailed this.
No. We do it all the
I
time.
said I'm
Trust
sorry,
me.
I derailed it.
No. This is we do this shit all the time because it's just because we know there's a different list than what Giger and McConnell are trying to say. They are trying to derail and distract from the list that Adams is asking about. Okay, Judge. He specifically testified, and I specifically asked on numerous occasions. They said that they had, and he testified to this, compiled a list of women that they suspected were, and they testified, and they also have reports that they made a list of women that needed to be contacted, either had prostitution related arrests or drug arrests. That's the list that they allegedly went off to contact all these women. I have repeatedly asked for that list and asked them, and I actually sent a preservation letter early on in the case because I'm preserving anyone who was denying anything happened. I've never received that list. And then they're up there acting like this list exists, acting like they've turned it over, and they haven't. And that's exactly what he's talking about. And that's exactly what I'm talking about.
Do you believe that there's any other list other than this or what you've got there?
No, sir. I'm looking at every letter Mr. Adams has sent me, and I don't have a copy of him sending me a preservation letter asking me anything.
Well, I'm just asking, is there any other list than this Verona list from the time period or the list that you have?
Not that I'm aware of. What are you showing? Are we looking at the same thing? That's what I'm trying to say. We're looking at the same thing. I know it. We're looking at the same thing.
No, Judge, and he's doing this in front of the jury to be dramatic. This isn't even his witness. That's the other thing. What the fuck is Giger doing? He had no business chiming in on this. This is McConnell's witness, and he's got to get his fat, arrogant, stupid, lying ass up there. And Giger makes us very emotional.
Oh, now that I know that, let me bring that out a little more.
Go ahead.
Let's go.
This is the thing. I don't know if there's a misunderstanding about what the detective thinks the list is or what this. It's been represented here that there's two lists that they've got. This Verona list for this time that everybody that was run.
It has a bunch, half of it's men.
Right. And then let me see what that is.
Judge, there's several reports, but it's everyone run through the crime information unit that Detective Holtzclaw, Officer Holtzclaw, ran.
Okay, so this list.
Respectfully to Mr. Adams, his co-counsel is telling him it's the exact same thing.
No, he's not. He doesn't have any idea what we're talking about.
Okay, so this other list, again, is a crime information list that has numerous people on it that looks like male and female on it.
Right.
So before we get further into this, I heard I'll allow you to try to ask specifically if there's some misunderstanding about a list or whatever else. They're representing that the only list they've got, there's no other list. I don't know.
Well, but that's not what the witness has testified to.
Again, he may not know. I guess, one, we need to find out if he's seen the list, if he's looked at the list, what's on the list, those kind of things to determine if there's some other list that's been turned over to the DA's office or if the Oklahoma City Police Department had a list that they didn't turn over.
Okay, I'll ask him. Detective Gregory, we've been talking about this list, and just so I make sure we're talking about the same thing, at the beginning of the recording, we listened that you're conversing with Miss Raines. You're on there, and you tell her that there's a list, and it's a long list, correct?
Yes.
And you've also testified previously in your direct examination with Sergeant Musney, Detective Musney?
Lieutenant Musney.
Lieutenant Musney went through all the reports and all the Verona runs that Officer Holtzclaw had generated for approximately a year, correct?
Yes.
And he went through there and located women who had prostitution pass or drug pass, correct?
Yes.
And that's the list that you went off of when you were investigating this case, correct?
Yes. The Varuna and CIU list did have those. Yes.
This testimony from Gregory is so irritating because he keeps going back. Every time Adams mentions the list, he says, yes, Varuna and CIU, CIU and Varuna. Yes, and it's absolutely not. It's so infuriating. I don't know if you guys remember that or not. Anyway,
And I remember Brian Bates says in the podcast, the list that
the
doesn't
list.
exist, you know. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it is because, and it's legitimate that, just for your information, Rich, it's legitimate that Adams is asking about it because the list that he's talking about, that they know he's talking about, is it's a what would be the word? A condensed list of only the women with the demographics I mentioned, and that's
Right.
the list that Adams is talking about, and they're playing games about.
Right. They're
Anyway.
trying to make him find a needle in a haystack situation.
Yeah, and they're trying to make it not look like what it was, which was Musney
Targeted.
setting the parameters of who they should go out and look for as far as alleged victims. Only look at
Right.
Black women who live in this area of town with drug and prostitution histories. That's a list. That's a real thing. And they are pretending like it's no, you blah, blah, anyway, even though it didn't need to be a big fucking deal, it turned into one because of the word games that they're trying to play, in my opinion.
Right.
Okay, anyway. But you said that he created a list of the women who had prostitution and drug arrests for a separate list of women, correct?
Those were women on the Varuna list. We checked all the women on the Varuna and CIU that he ran.
There's also approximately several hundred men on that Varuna run, if that's what you're talking about, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so what this list that you're talking about, where you determined people had a prostitution history or a drug history, where is that list?
The Varuna and CIU list.
Okay, and you said that Musney went through there and found the ones that had prostitution pass or drug pass. Did you not testify to that under oath on direct?
Yes.
Okay, where is that list?
The CIU and Varuna list.
Okay, does the list even exist where you have listed out that the women who have prostitution or drug arrest period, does that list exist?
The CIU and Varuna list.
Okay, so that you're intentionally playing word games. Let's be honest with the jury. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Whenever you say CIU,
Objection. Argumentative.
you're talking about
Right, hang on a second. Got an objection on the floor. Restate your question.
when you're talking about the CIU, you're talking about the log from basically a year of every CIU log, correct? That has every human being in there that Officer Holtzclaw has ever run for wants and warrants, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, then you say that the Varuna list is the list that is generated of everybody in the world that Officer Holtzclaw was approximately a year ran through Varuna, correct?
Yes.
Then you testified that Musney went through there and determined which women had a prostitution and a drug pass, and then a list was created, correct?
He went through it, but we ended up going through all the women.
Okay, that's not my question. This is very simple. Did you, in fact, say that a list was created of women who had a prostitution and drug history past, period?
Yes, I did.
Where is that list?
The Varuna and CIU.
Okay, so there's no such specific list that has women who have a prostitution or drug history, correct?
That list is the Varuna and CIU list.
The list is everyone he's ever run, correct?
Yes.
Okay, just so we're clear on the record, and if there's not going to be any more allegations, it is a fair statement to say that not only does no list exist, but no list has been provided to Officer Holtzclaw nor his counsel of women who have specifically been arrested for prostitution or drugs, correct?
I have no idea what's been provided to you.
Okay, but no list was ever generated that specifically said this woman has prostitution related arrests, this woman has prostitution and or drug related arrests, correct?
We do not have a specific list that says this Jane Doe has prostitution. Jane Doe number 2 has prostitution. No.
That's a lie. Okay, but to explore it further, you said that Lieutenant Musney made a list of suspected victims that fit the criteria that I previously discussed with you, correct?
The list is Varuna and CIU.
Okay. Lieutenant Musney certainly had to produce a piece of paper to say, hone in on these women, correct?
The list was, again, Verona CIU with female names. That's who we went to go talk to.
Tell the jury how looking at the CIU list, you can tell whether or not a woman has a prostitution or drug history.
You can always go back on Verona, pull them and see.
On CIU, how do you look at the list and determine whether or not someone has a prostitution or drug history? It only shows active warrants, doesn't it?
You can't. It's just the name of female.
Do what?
It's just the name of the female.
Give me a for instance. In the Varuna search, there are over 405 names provided, correct?
I don't recall specifics.
May I approach the witness?
You may.
I'm going to ask you to look at what I'm handing you and ask if you recognize that.
Actually, I don't. Not this.
Do you know where that came from?
Actually, I don't.
Okay. Would it surprise you to learn there's over 405 people listed on the Varuna list?
For what?
That Officer Holtzclaw ran during the year.
No.
And so I'm assuming from what you're telling this jury that you talked to every one of those people.
We talked to several.
How many men did you interview in this case that were alleged
A few.
sexual assault victims?
Only one alleged, but it was deemed false.
If someone came forward and made a false allegation against, or at least you believe it might be false, so you didn't file that one, right?
Right. He said it was false.
Did you charge him?
No.
You didn't charge him with making a false report?
He didn't make an actual police report in the end. He was just making a comment, so we checked it out just to see, just like what we do.
But he certainly didn't regurgitate that to anyone in the law enforcement capacity, such as you or any other detective. He never said that he was molested in any way, correct?
That's correct.
He admitted that whatever you heard on the streets was untrue.
Yes.
Okay. Now, there's also 395 names of alleged victims on the list, correct?
I don't know about the specific list you're talking about.
Do you recall contacting approximately 22 people and 22 females that Officer Holtzclaw had either run on CIU or Varuna, and you went and talked to them and they said nothing happened?
Yeah, easily that many.
Okay, well, did you record all those?
Well, if they weren't assaulted, no. We had a list of around 33 women that said nothing happened.
Okay, you have a list of 33 women that said nothing happened, correct?
That's correct.
And you didn't record any of those conversations, correct?
Don't believe so, no.
Okay, well, did any of them say something did happen?
No, not on the ones that denied anything happened.
Okay, and there had been some women who claimed things happened that you could absolutely 100% verify didn't happen, correct?
Yes.
For instance, Officer Holtzclaw was put on leave when they said it happened, correct?
That's correct, yes.
And they were actually lying to you, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, on the 35 women that you're saying that you talked to that said absolutely nothing happened, where is that list?
I don't have that list. I'm not aware that was the list.
Okay, did you maintain a list of all the women who denied anything inappropriate happened?
I believe that there was something that was kept. I believe Detective Davis, I would give her the names and believe that she would put it together in a Word document.
Okay, and so you would agree with me now on all the women who stated absolutely nothing happened in their contact with Officer Holtzclaw, you're able to verify that he did actually run their names or had run them on Varuna or CIU, correct?
That's correct.
And after they told you that, in fact, Officer Holtzclaw did absolutely nothing inappropriate and nothing sexually had happened, certainly you made a report to that effect, did you not?
I believe I did.
Okay, so on each of these 35 individuals, we're going to have a case number, or under Sergeant or under Officer Holtzclaw's case, it'll be under his case number where you've made a report on each and every woman that denied anything inappropriate happened.
I think I think what I did was just to cross them out. Like going down through the Varuna list, contacted them, crossed them out. I think that's what I did instead to report individual.
Okay, you understand the difference between crossing someone out and making a report, don't you?
Yes, that's why I corrected it.
Okay, so there's no list that exists or no report exists of any of the women who denied anything inappropriate happened or denied anything happened to them at all. There's no report made on those women, is there?
Just the Word document. I guess you could say it's a report that Detective Davis put together. We joined in of the woman that said that nothing happened. So yes, you could say there was a report.
We'll see. Okay. So I can say that there's a report. Let me ask you this. For instance, did you interview a lady by the name of Paula Birmingham?
It's possible. I'll talk to a lot of women.
Well, whenever you interviewed Paula Birmingham and she denied anything inappropriate ever happened between her and Officer Holtzclaw during his stop, certainly you made a report on this particular day. You met with Miss Birmingham at this particular location. These particular people were present and she denied anything inappropriate happened. And I'll find a report to that effect.
I don't believe so. It's probably on that Word
So you
document
didn't
list
make a
that I just.
report, is what you're saying.
No,
Okay, you wouldn't have made a report on Tina Mosley either.
these names I'm not recalling.
Are you not recalling because they simply said that absolutely nothing happened?
Yes,
Did you tell them while you were interviewing them when they denied anything happened? Did you tell them that Officer Holtzclaw's a really bad guy?
I don't recall.
Well, you didn't record it, so it must have. I don't have anything to compare it to, so I'm asking you, did you tell them that he's a really bad guy?
I could have.
Okay, and then did you tell them that you also possess this list that's rather lengthy of women that he allegedly did assault? Did you tell them that?
Everything that I did with the 13 alleged victims, I did with all of them. It's very vague, and I was just trying to get to the truth.
So my question is this. So whenever they would tell you nothing happened, we know you didn't make a report, correct?
Yes,
So, and we know you didn't record it, correct?
that's correct.
So how am I supposed to go back and verify anything that you're saying here today?
You're more than welcome to go talk to the women. They denied everything happened.
So is that the way? But when they denied it happened, you didn't tell them again that Officer Holtzclaw's a bad guy and you've got a long list.
I could have.
And it just wouldn't break them. They wouldn't come forward with anything. Is that what you're saying?
I wasn't trying to break them.
Okay. They weren't saying what you wanted to hear.
No, I was just there to see if there was a victim or not. Like 13 women will testify here.
Well, tell the jury, really? As a lead detective on this, as one of the lead detectives on this case, how is it fair, just fair, how is it fair to Officer Holtzclaw for you when you go out and talk to the individuals and they say absolutely nothing happened? And you have in your possession AVLs and CIU logs and everything showing he certainly did come into contact with them because you know that for a fact. How do you justify to Officer Holtzclaw and to this jury that you did a thorough and competent investigation if you wouldn't even make a report saying you interviewed individuals and they denied anything happened?
I think it would be in his best interest if a female said that nothing happened, like 33 did. Didn't really go in his favor with the 13 that said they were assaulted.
So that's your response in regard to how you think you're being fair with this jury and how you're being fair with Officer Holtzclaw is just to present 13 individuals that somehow you got to say something and the other 35 that said absolutely nothing happened, you make no report on. That's your answer?
Objection. Form of the question, Your Honor.
Well, you can answer.
Okay, repeat that, please.
Your answer to my question, you understand that we're here for justice and this is a very serious matter, correct?
Objection. Argumentative.
Overruled.
I'm here for justice.
Okay. And you understand that this is a very serious matter?
Yes, again, absolutely.
Okay. You think that it is fair to Officer Holtzclaw and to this jury whenever you go out and you talk to individuals where they deny anything whatsoever happened for you not to make a report to that effect, correct?
Yes, I'm here to testify that those women, nothing happened to them. That's what they told me.
And you think it's fair to not only go out and do that, but to obviously not even audio record those interviews?
That's correct. That's fine.
And really, the only way we even know that this happened is that you went off of a Varuna list that contains over 400 names and a CIU list that contains approximately the same number, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And we still don't have a specific list that exists today by this Lieutenant Musney that says these are the women that I got off Varuna and CIU that either there have a prostitution or drug related arrest. We have no such list, correct?
Again, it's the Veruna and CIU list.
Okay, and you're playing word games. But is there another list that exists that you compiled out of Varuna and CIU that says these are the women we need to focus in on and we need to go talk to?
You keep saying like there's a list. That list is the
You
CIU
said
and
there
Veruna.
was a list. You said that there was a list that Lieutenant Musney put together, and you were very specific about it, that he went in there and looked for anyone that had a prostitution history or a drug history, correct?
The list is the Veruna and CIU.
Okay. When I look at Varuna, I look at the list that's been provided by the DA's office. It simply has a Varuna name. It just says someone's name was run through Varuna. It doesn't tell me anything else.
You can pull up the name in Veruna, and there is the name of everything that is associated with that person.
Unfortunately, the jury can't pull up the name in Varuna. I can't pull up the name in Varuna. The judge can't pull up the name in Varuna. Only you can pull up the name in Varuna, correct?
Right? And I'm telling you exactly what happened.
Okay. And again, as you would pull up these names, and I'm asking specifically, and I know this sounds like I'm quibbling, but you have testified that there was a list crafted off Varuna and CIU of women that have prostitution and drug related arrests. Did you not testify to that?
Again, I testified to it's Veruna and CIU.
Okay, just so we're crystal clear, there's no list, a separate list that identifies these women as having prostitution and drug related arrests, correct?
And again, not quibbling, the CIU and Veruna is a list of women that we went off of.
Dickhole. Okay, when I look at then I'm just going to ask you to explain it to me. When I look at the list of CIU that Officer Holtzclaw ran for approximately a year, when I look at that, how can I determine whether or not a person has been arrested for a drug or prostitution related arrest?
You would just go into Veruna, each individual person. We have the means. You don't have the means, but we have the means to go in there and look. So each female was looked at in such manner through Veruna.
Exactly, motherfucker. Sorry, Cherie and Kat. So at the same time you were looking at each of these females, you didn't sit there and write their names down, drugs or prostitution. Write them down so you'd know which ones to go contact out of the 400?
No, you said 400 male and female, correct?
Yes.
On the list you have.
Okay, so we can eliminate the males. You didn't talk to the males.
We did not talk to the males.
So in all the women, the over 200 women that exist on those lists, as you would go through there and you'd click on the screen in Varuna that no one else has access to in this courtroom other than law enforcement, and you would determine that they either had a prostitution or drug related history, then you would just remember that, correct? You wouldn't create a separate list of these are the women I want to talk to.
Lieutenant Munsey went through there and on each one, from what I understood, went into the Veruna, looked at their past history, but we checked out every female. Reason we didn't talk to these males is because Officer Holtzclaw victimized women only.
Okay, that's your belief, correct?
Me and 13 victims.
Okay, may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
He's a seasoned detective here. I didn't ask him that question, and I'll challenge the record of exactly what I asked him, and he harpooned me on purpose as a seasoned detective. And what he just said is totally improper, that he assaulted these women, and the women believe it too. And I asked for a mistrial.
Okay. Mistrial overruled.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Anything further?
Yes, Your Honor. So the list that you went from were the Veruna list and the CIU list.
That's correct.
And are there male and female names contained on both the Veruna and CIU lists?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd object to the form. It's all leading.
Overruled as to that question.
And just to be clear, the Veruna system is what gives you information as to someone's prior criminal history through Oklahoma City Police Department.
That's correct.
And the CIU list is whenever you're running someone for warrants.
Yes.
So when you go through the CIU list, what is your understanding as to how the females were located that you went and interviewed and that Detective Davis went and interviewed?
Just because you run a person through Veruna, that doesn't mean you ran through CIU and vice versa. So we began with the Veruna list. Of course, you had to start somewhere. And then we moved to the CIU list and found other females that were ran.
And you check their history, or Lieutenant Musney, to your understanding, check their history on Veruna to determine who had drug and prostitution history?
That's correct.
But is there any separate list of these women you have other than the Veruna and the CIU list?
No.
Mr. Adams asked you, Oklahoma City Police Department, you as law enforcement have access to the Veruna system.
Yes.
Mr. Adams does not. Mr. Geiger does not. I do not.
That's correct.
Were Veruna reports or criminal history from Oklahoma City Police Department furnished for each of the 13 victims in this case to counsel?
Yes.
And there was also another list compiled that was the list of women who stated, no, nothing happened.
Yes, that's correct.
Mr. Adams has asked you about whether you had interviewed one male with respect to Officer Holtzclaw's case. Do you remember that question?
Yes, I do.
And when I say interviewed one male as being a potential victim.
Yes.
And he also asked you specifically whether or not a charge of making a false police report had been filed against that male. Do you remember that question?
That's correct.
Were there females in the case who made police reports that you were able to verify were false based on Oklahoma City Police Department records that were talked extensively to this jury about?
Yes.
And have there been charges of filing false police reports filed against them?
That's correct. There have been.
May I have a brief moment, Your Honor? Are you aware, Detective Gregory, that if defense counsel asks for a criminal history on any witness involved in this case, that we have to give it to them?
Yes.
I'll pass the witness.
Okay, just on those areas, Your Honor. Again, this list has come up. I'm going to ask you to read a report and ask you if this refreshes your memory.
Yes, Lieutenant Munsey's report.
Yes, does that refresh your memory about this list?
It's still the same list. The CIU Veruna list.
Is that what the report says?
Made a list. Yes, he printed off a copy of Veruna and CIU.
It doesn't say that, does it?
Well, no, it just says made a list. That's the list. I'm telling you, that's what it is.
It says he made a list of what?
Women.
Quit playing games. What does it say?
Objection on hearsay grounds, Your Honor.
Judge, he's sitting here playing word games.
Okay, you can ask a leading question.
Does it not say that he made a list of individuals for you to contact that either have a prostitution or drug history? He made a list.
He said
Is that what it says?
he was specifically looking.
Objection. Hearsay, Your Honor.
Overruled. You can answer.
Does Lieutenant Musney say that he made a list, L-I-S-T, of women that either had a drug or prostitution history, period?
Objection. Maybe your approach, Your Honor. Your Honor, it's hearsay. He's asking him a question from Lieutenant Musney's report that Lieutenant Musney has written in Lieutenant Musney's report. The question, the witness to ask that question to would be Lieutenant Musney, not Detective Gregory. It's offered for the truth of the matter asserted, and no hearsay exception applies.
Overruled.
You may answer the question. Does it not say in that report that Lieutenant Musney made a list, L-I-S-T, of the women that have prostitution and drug-related histories?
It says, I was specifically looking for women who had either drug history and or a history of prostitution.
Keep going.
Then it says, I made a list of women who felt we needed to contact.
He made a list. He said he made a list.
The list is the Varuna and CIU.
Oh, I want to choke him so bad. I'm so glad I get to edit this. I've read this I don't know how many times, and I've had these passionate emotions I don't know how many times, and he still can bring me to the anger that he's bringing me to. He is such a dick. Oh,
I'm going to be honest, I'm feeding off that anger you're showing right now.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Well, no, I mean, good. I mean, that if that helps your dickish answers, then that's awesome. Oh my
It makes
God.
me want to swat him too.
Seriously.
So
Yeah, it is, isn't it, Cherie? It's infuriating how much we've gone over this, listened to
Yep.
this, talked this, read this, and he can still bring us. Someday, Rich, when you have some time, I will try to give you a synopsis, which is almost impossible to do, but of just how and why this case is so corrupt and so wrong. Oh, there's a fucking list. And it's not just Varuna and CIU. It's just not. So fucking
right.
infuriating. Oh, okay.
He says it to the women.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Am I on line? Oh,
Line
let's go.
3.
Okay, line 3. He said he made a list. Does it not say that?
Objection. Asked and answered.
That is the list.
Where
Well, hang on. Answer the question as asked.
does it say he made a list?
I then made a list of women who I felt we needed to make contact with.
Do you see where I'm getting that?
And I'm telling you this because I'm the one who ran these women down. What that list is.
Okay, so you're telling me that this list does not exist is exactly what you're telling me, correct?
The list exists.
Okay, so when Lieutenant Musney says that he went through the Varuna system and CIU and he was checking persons with a criminal history, I was specifically looking for women who had either a drug history or a history of prostitution. I then made a list of who I felt we needed to make contact with to see if they were a victim of a sexual assault. That is in toto, is it not?
The list is Varuna and CIU.
Motherfucker. So is it your testimony today under oath that Lieutenant Musney is the one that made the CIU list?
Lieutenant Musney provided Detective Davis and I the list, the Varuna and CIU list women.
Is that your testimony today under oath in front of this jury that Detective Musney made the CIU list?
The CIU provided one of the lists, like men and women he's ran.
Judge, I would ask that the witness be instructed to answer the question.
All right. Listen to the question. Answer the question.
It's a very simple question. While you're under oath today in front of this jury, are you telling this jury that Lieutenant Musney is the one that made the list on the CIU in this case?
He made the list.
Okay. And are you also testifying under oath today that Lieutenant Musney is also the officer that made the list on the Varuna?
Yes.
Okay.
He put together the list.
On the Varuna.
On Varuna and CIU, yes.
Now, in regards to these false police reports you've talked about, there were some people that came forward after the news and stuff that you were able to verify their stories were absolutely 100% false, correct?
Yes,
And the way you did that was, and the only way you did that was if you you did not have a Varuna or CIU run on someone and they claim something happened, if you couldn't show that they came into contact with Officer Holtzclaw, they then became a defendant in a case as opposed to a witness, correct?
No, we just, even though we didn't have Varuna or CIU or anything like that, like Miss Loggins, we didn't have that. We just had to investigate it further.
Okay, well, then tell the jury, let's just take one of them. Which one do you want to take that was filing as a false police report?
Her name is slipping my mind. I believe it's Parker. I could have been off on the name.
And tell the jury about Miss Parker. Who is that?
And again, I might be wrong with the name. We had a female who came forward who claimed she was sexually assaulted by Officer Holtzclaw. Told her to come on in, sat down with her for the interview. She kind of gave the same details as Miss Loggins' case at 50 in Lincoln. She said she was stopped by Officer Holtzclaw, taken into a different location, and then he had laid his gun on the hood while searching her. Things just wasn't adding up at all. After that interview, went and looked for during the time period, checked AVL, Varuna, nothing was matching up. Went and talked to her again. She ended up at the end just admitting that she lied about it all. And so we did charge her for making a false report.
So she's not the only one that came. And again, you couldn't verify any of her stuff with Varuna, AVL, or CIU, correct?
That was part of the investigation and the talking to her, yeah.
Well, tell the jury about anyone else you filed on.
That's the only one I specifically did.
You specifically recall there being a news broadcast on this and a young lady coming forward on the news saying that she was sexually assaulted by Officer Holtzclaw the week previous, correct?
I believe so.
And you know for a fact that the time she was saying this assault occurred, Officer Holtzclaw was on administrative leave.
Yes, that is correct.
We saw on the video where his gun and badge and uniform and everything was taken from him, correct?
Yes.
And you knew that she was lying.
I didn't interview her. That could have been Detective Davis.
Okay. Do you know whether any charges were ever filed on her?
That I don't know.
And there were others, correct?
Not that I dealt with besides the male. And again, I believe her name was Parker.
Are you talking about Mr. Dunn?
That sounds right.
Tell the jury about Mr. Dunn.
I don't really recall many specifics. He had admitted that he made it up or whatever he was talking to. I don't recall on that. He didn't make the actual police report, unlike Miss Parker.
He did make a police report in this case, though, didn't he?
Not that I recall.
Do you recall making a report of what Mr. Dunn told you?
On that one, yes, I did.
But you just said it. Okay, stop, Rhonda. You do recall making a report?
I believe so.
Okay, and he was telling you that he came into contact with Officer Holtzclaw, and Officer Holtzclaw kept rubbing his penis.
That's what I had understood about it. It's been a little bit since I talked to Mr. Dunn.
It's what you wrote in your report, isn't it?
I'd have to take a look at it.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Did you have an opportunity to review that?
Yes, sir.
Was I accurate in my depiction of what Mr. Dunn said?
You'll have to repeat. I'm sorry.
That Mr. Dunn told you that Sergeant Holtzclaw searched him 3 times, and each time he was rubbing his penis with his hands inappropriately.
Yes,
He told you that.
that's correct.
And he told you that Officer Holtzclaw, anyway, you didn't file on him, did you?
I don't make the determination, but he was not filed on, no.
And in fact, you were even asking Mr. Dunn on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the most positive, how sure was he that it was Officer Holtzclaw? And he told you 9.
Yes, sir, he did.
Again, you weren't able to find any CIU or that he'd ever come into contact with Officer Holtzclaw, correct?
The detectives looked that up and advised me of that information.
Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Last word, Miss McConnell?
Yes, Your Honor. Detective Gregory, do you remember Mr. Adams asking you if you felt that it was fair for justice and for the defense attorney and for Mr. Holtzclaw to not make reports about the women who said, no, nothing happened?
Yes.
But when you were able to determine that someone was making a false allegation against Officer Holtzclaw, did you document that in a report?
Yes, I did.
And based on your training and experience as an Oklahoma City police detective, is making a report about that false allegation helpful to the defense?
Yes.
So if they said that nothing happened, we furnish that information to the defense attorneys and in the form of a list of their name and identifying information.
Yes.
And if you were able to determine that someone made a false statement against Officer Holtzclaw, you documented that within a police report?
That's correct.
That's the witness.
I don't have anything further.
All right, thank you, Detective. You can step down at this time.
Okay, there you have it. That is one of the more, and it's a wrap, yep. That was one of the more, it's not the most, believe it or not, it's not the most infuriating testimony that we have, or that we've even read so far, actually. But it definitely ranks right up there because I've watched so many videos of Rocky Gregory, and I know his mannerisms and his, the word games, obviously, that he likes to play. It really, really made it hard to, I shouldn't say it made it hard or really, really, but it was really frustrating and pissed me off so much, reading his words, because he's just an asshole. And it's frustrating because this is one reason why them doing all 13 of these accusers in one trial was so problematic. Because you just can't, the jury, there's no way that the jury could have been expected to remember all of the things, all of the witnesses, all the different tests. And just let me say, there were two detectives that were interviewing these women, these accusers. One, Rocky Gregory and Kim Davis. So they both had a certain amount of women that they were sent out to, what's the word that used? Create, Cherie. What would we call it? That they were sent out to fabricate.
What did they? I can't remember the word.
Yeah.
It begins with an R.
Reverse engineer.
There you go. That's it.
They had very specific women to go out and do this reverse engineering of these accusers. And one of the most saddest ones is kind of mixed in with the first one, who was Janie Liggins. She's the first accuser, but right before Janie Liggins, it's just I can't really even try to start discussing it. We'll be here all day. The best thing I can recommend is if you want to try to get caught up, is just listen to the podcast, to Brian Bates Investigates podcast. Because he just does a much better job at breaking it all down, and he's far more articulate. He doesn't get all frustrated and pissed off and swear like I do when I'm trying to explain, or sidetracked. So just, I don't know. I just, Jennifer, thank you. Jennifer became a member of the channel. I appreciate that very much. If you're invested enough to become a channel member, try to find some time if you can. I know everybody's very busy and there's a lot going on in the world, but if you can, try to start catching an episode a day of the podcast to just try to get caught up. if you're interested in the backstory, because we're right in the middle of the case right now. We're right in the middle of the trial at this point. So it's really hard to try to give you a backstory about how that thing from this particular accuser is affecting, what the detectives are saying about this accuser. It's just too much. But what I was going to say is there's Detective Rocky Gregory and Detective Kim Davis. Kim Davis is vile and disgusting as a human and as a detective. As much as Rocky Gregory pisses me off for her own reasons and ways, Kim Davis pisses me off at least as much, if not more. So I'm going to try. I got to stop because I'll just have you guys here all day. K-Bean, or bore you, probably bore you. K-Bean says, what really happened? What did Daniel do to bring down such hellfire from above? What's the underlying story? The underlying story is he did a dumb thing, I guess, as a cop. And after he had logged out, he was sent home for the night after his shift. He saw a car that swerved. It was like 2 a.m. He saw a car that swerved. And he kind of worried about it. Gosh, this could be an impaired driver, or I better just pull it over and check and make sure everything's okay. And he did that off duty, which I think isn't necessarily an uncommon thing for law enforcement officers to do, but he did that. And when he did, he had also turned off all of his vehicle computer system. About a mile or 2 down the road after he left the station, he just shut it all down. And he did that every night at the end of his shift. And yes, absolutely. And that was the event that got him in the spotlight. So this woman, Janie Liggins, there's a video, I think Cherie posted it way back when we started the Inside the Wrongful Conviction series. I think it's episodes 1 and 2 that you would want to watch. And I don't remember when we started it, but I think it's been close to a year. I just recommend it if, going back and listening to those as well. And he pulled her over 2 o'clock in the morning. He searched her car, asked her, are you drunk? Have you been drinking? Are you on any drugs? Blah, blah, blah. The standard questions that cops ask. He searched her purse with her permission. She gave him permission to search the car and the purse. And she then, there's a whole story about what she did afterwards. He left and went home. He didn't call it in. He didn't write her a ticket for anything and let her go. He went home. She went her way. And she got home, and for whatever reasons, which are completely speculative on my part, but for whatever reasons, she got home, and somewhere along those lines, she ended up accusing this cop who pulled her over of sexually assaulting her and making her, suck his penis and, all this stuff on the side of the road at, 2 o'clock in the morning. And when she went home, she testifies, Janie Liggins, that she went home and told her daughter. Her daughter was at the time, and this is where the politics part, I guess, probably comes in. Her daughter was an active member of the local BLM organization. And Janie Liggins and her daughter, speculatively, created a story. And I kind of feel like Janie Liggins went home. She was pissed off. She was late, getting the car back home for her boyfriend to go to work. And she was pissed off because she got pulled over. She had her car searched, and she's, and they try to identify her or classify her as this old, poor old grandma. She was 58 fucking years old, you guys. I'm 62. When I was 58, even now, I'm not a poor old lady who is being taken advantage of. So that whole thing, that whole narrative they have about Janie Liggins is BS. So anyway, she ends up going to the hospital. They take her to the hospital. They do a SANE exam, sexual assault nurse examination, and a rape kit, basically. But they didn't do like a full-on rape kit because she never said that he had vaginally raped her. And so they went in, they did oral swabs. Kim Davis, who eventually you're going to hear from in a testimony, Kim Davis interviewed her at the hospital, Janie Liggins. They took this DNA test that they did, and they also, they took the DNA from her. They did the oral swabs and everything else, and, checked her. When the results came back from her SANE exam, there was no DNA or evidence from anybody else in her mouth, in her oral wash, around her lips, in her cheek. No male DNA. No, it's definitely no DNA from Daniel Holtzclaw. None. And that eventually creates a problem, which is where the one I was talking about, Terry Morris, kind of comes in. Now, they've already gone public at this point. Well, not the police, but Janie Liggins has already gone public at this point in shadow on the news and makes this claim that she's been sexually assaulted by an Oklahoma City police officer. And she's bringing it to the attention of the media, mainstream media, who, and they immediately make it racial. The thing about Janie Liggins, she doesn't fit in that in that racial profiling that Lieutenant Musney does. That will all come after Janie Liggins. But this comes back. She's already said on the news, I was assaulted by a Oklahoma City police officer, and he made me put his penis in my mouth and blah, blah, blah. And then it comes back that there's no DNA, and the cops are like, what the fuck are we going to do now? She's come out and said this happened. They had to then, they had to create a serial rapist out of Daniel. They had to make him a rapist. And I can't explain it any other way than by listening to the podcast from Bates and, or, going back and watching my videos, from the start. It's just so hard to try to explain it because there's just so much more that's involved. So anyway, I'm very passionate about this case. I'm very angry, about Daniel serving any man wrongfully accused of these kinds of horrific, awful crimes, being sent to prison for 263 years without parole. And out of 36 charges against him when he went to trial, he was convicted on 18 of them, not the full 36, and he's serving 263 years. Every charge that he was convicted of had its own amount of sentence time, and none of those sentences were concurrent. All of them are consecutive. Every separate charge that he's convicted on is consecutive. I'm not minimizing sexual assaults or anything like that in any way, shape, or form. I'm not. But you would think that this person murdered people, like mass murdered people or something, with a sentence like that. It's just outrageous to me. So, so I don't think Daniel pissed anyone off, and you'll learn along the way. He didn't piss anyone off. Oklahoma City was caught because now they have a a situation where a Black woman claimed she was sexually assaulted, and we're kind of right at the cusp of Black Lives Matters and riots, that are going on in Missouri and things like that, all over, really, in some of those areas. And Oklahoma City had just, or was actually in the middle of, but just finished a huge part of a project that they'd been working on to clean up and beautify Oklahoma City. And the last thing they wanted was riots like what was going on in Missouri and Texas and all the other places coming to their brand new city and burning it down or tearing it down. They had to put him on trial and make they railroaded him. It's just all there is to it. They railroaded him. And they had to do that to save their city and to save face. And it's just who they are. They are one of the most corrupt departments, cities, counties in this country. So anyway, okay, let's see. I'm just going to grab some comments here. The department went through a massive shakeup after this trial. If any of you have heard of any familiarity with Oklahoma City, there's a really good book, and I've got some of it that we kind of discussed in a podcast form on the channel. This is why I have a hard time talking about it. Anyway, what was it called, Cherie?
Death and Justice.
Death and Justice. We learned so much about the corruption in Oklahoma City from that book. So we started researching more. Plus, we were already, getting documents and stuff for this case. And the corruption goes way, way, way back. But in my lifetime, there was a prosecutor there by the name of Bob Macy. And he had, various different nicknames, Hang 'em High Bob. And he was in the top 5 of the most corrupt, dangerous prosecutors in the country during that time period. And his entire department was corrupt. Not only not department, office as DA, judges, all judges are corrupt. I know it sounds like I'm just, waving I believe every, government is corrupt flag here, and I'm not. But this particular county and city absolutely is. And so it goes back at least that far, and it never really, I don't know. I'm hoping it's getting better now. They have a new DA now, finally. The DA that we had, that they did have, I say we, I act like I live there, but the DA they had, Richard was reading the part of Galen Gigger. He was the ADA at the time. The DA in the office was David Prater. Horrible individual, horrible man. So it's just really, really bad. At some point, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, you'll have to refresh my memory, but I think I actually have videos of different people working for the state. There's a video that covers Gigger, I believe, Kim Davis, Rocky Gregory. Henderson. Okay, yeah, 2 things, and then I promise I'm gonna let you all go. But this is important to know. Remind me of Henderson, Cherie, in a minute. There's a very, very minuscule amount of DNA in this case that is alleged to have come from a 17-year-old accuser. I have an entire video on that, breaking down that DNA. But anyway, there's a whole thing that goes with the whole DNA. It was a very minuscule, almost unusable, low amount of DNA in this case from one person. And the crime lab analyst at the time had been supervised previously by somebody named Joyce Gilchrist, and they called her Black Magic. The hugely corrupt and proven corrupt crime lab analyst in Oklahoma City. What's her name? Elaine Taylor worked for Joyce Gilchrist, and then after Joyce Gilchrist was fired and then died or whatever happened to her, she ended up going to trial, being charged or accused of and being charged with some of these corrupt things that she had done in the crime lab. And so Elaine Taylor became the supervisor of the crime lab in Oklahoma City eventually. Elaine Taylor, at that time, who was testing the evidence against Daniel, or from Daniel, was the mother-in-law of Detective Rocky Gregory. So there's a whole shit show full of shit in this case. Anyway, then back to Timothy Henderson, who was Daniel's judge. He was the judge who presided over Daniel's case. Timothy Henderson, the Honorable Timothy Henderson, in March of 2022 or 1, Cherie? 21 or 22?
I missed it. What?
Henderson, when he was accused.
Oh, seems like it was 22. But
yeah, I think it was March of 2022. I've got a couple videos on it if you want to watch them. He was accused by 5 women, 3 in the DA's office and 2 defense attorneys, of sexual assaults. The judge who presided over Daniel's sexual assault case trial was in 2022 accused of sexual assaults. Serious sexual assaults is how it was reported by 5 different women. 3 of those women were in the DA's office, and 2 of them were in the DA's office, and 3 of them were defense attorneys. What is that called? Excuse me, when you work for the state, but you're a public defenders. I couldn't think of what they were called. So all of this is going on. There was very little investigation done against Henderson properly. But he ended up, that happened in end of March, and I think it was April 2nd or 3rd, he resigned from being a judge. Still a practicing attorney now. Went back to practicing law, but he's no longer a judge. Galen Gigger, the prosecutor whose part Richard was reading, there is proof, I shouldn't say proof, there are charges against one of his sons for sexually assaulting, I think it was 3, but it might be 2, 3 young girls when he was a teenager himself. And that was all covered up. So listen, it's a horrible case. There's nothing that will convince me nobody will ever be able to convince me there's even any speck of anything wrong that Daniel ever did to any woman while he was an Oklahoma City police officer or at any time in his life. He's 100% innocent. I believe it. I don't expect everybody else to just believe it because I believe it. Check the things out for yourself that we've recommended. Let's see. Need evidence? We can tailor it for. Oh, that's funny, Liam. Liam's so funny. It's just, you take your time, go through it if you're interested. And let me know what you think. Let me know in the comment section. I'm absolutely always willing to answer questions or talk about it, and educate. There's not a whole lot about the case that I don't know, that I don't have proof of or documentation of. And so that's what my channel is all about, bringing more awareness to this case, showing the lies and the corruption, and getting that information out there, because there's got to be relief for Daniel at some point. He has exhausted all of his appeals, but he's in post-conviction right now. So we're not done fighting. I needed to do more research, but apparently it's not really anything that can be considered. But the Eighth Amendment protects somebody from excessive what's the word? I get lost. I struggle with words. Excessive. Oh my gosh, sentencing. I couldn't think. If that
cruel and unusual punishment for
cruel and unusual, yeah, and yeah, cruel and unusual punishment, and via extent, outrageous sentencing based on the crime and all those things. I thought it was that Daniel had an Eighth Amendment protection right that he could pursue, but evidently not. So I don't guess I know. I guess I don't understand the Eighth Amendment. So at any rate, you guys, this is so deep and big and corrupt and dirty, and I don't know how anybody in the Oklahoma City system can live with themselves, because what they've done to Daniel is unthinkable, unforgivable. And so that's my job. That's what I'm here for. That's why I'm here. So, I will say one more thing. Just talking about race. They tried to make Daniel a racist cop, a racist white cop. Daniel's half Japanese. So now, not everybody knows that, but there's nothing. I talked to Daniel on the phone countless times, letters back and forth, and there is nothing about Daniel that's racist in any way, shape, or form. I 100% know that. So anyway, you guys, I really, really appreciate you guys for for taking the time to come in and participate in the chat, listen to the transcript, asking questions. I really appreciate. I love the questions and the comments. I love to go back and forth on the comment section at any time on any video. And Jennifer, again, thank you for the membership. I really appreciate that. And all of you in the chat. I appreciate all of you. So Kay Bean and Liam, so great to see you. It's really a treat when we get Liam to be able to come in. Sheila Hawkins, so glad to see you again today. Under Your Scars, I was here. I know she's got a lot of life stuff going on and she's sidetracked and busy. Richard, Voice of the People, Off Label Podcast, and Jennifer for the membership. You guys are awesome. If I missed you, I'm so sorry. Jazznaz, thank you so much for stopping by early on and giving us a thumbs up. We really appreciate it. If I don't know, a lot of people have subscribed in the last 2 days, but that doesn't stop me from saying, please subscribe if you haven't already. Carolyn, I'm sorry, I saw you there, Carolyn. Amanda, how did I miss Amanda? I missed Amanda. Amanda, thank you. I don't know if you're still here. I'm so sorry. Thank you and welcome. What was that, Cherie?
You said subscribe, and I said, and tell all your friends.
Yes, yes. I've been streaming this also to Twitter or X. I feel like when I started, sharing it on X as well, streaming it on X, I think that the subs kind of grew a little bit from there. No comments from anybody on X. Nobody's really liking, other than people I know, of course, but, no people that I don't know are commenting or, reposting or anything. And that's okay. But I know it's getting some views because you can see how many views a video or whatever a post has gotten. And so I know that people are watching it, and I feel like, and Daniel asks me all the time when we talk, do you feel like you're seeing any changes, any difference, any more interest in the case? And, I feel really confident that I'm really excited to tell him the next time he calls that in 2 days or less than 2 days, I went from 622 subs to 632. It's pretty freaking amazing. So I really appreciate all of you from Robert's channel coming over and supporting and showing interest. And hit me up if you ever have any other questions. Find me in the comment section here. And you can, of course, over in Off Labels Discord or anywhere else that you see me. My second channel will be coming probably not till the new year. I have decided on a name. I'm going to call it Sassy Gemini. So I don't want my second channel having anything to do with this channel. And it's going to be a channel of potpourri. So, whatever topic I decide to just show up and talk about on any given time when that channel finally gets started, it will just be what we talk about for that day. So I'm a talker and I like to chat. I always have shit to say. And even if you can't hear my voice over in Robert's chat, you guys know Jennifer definitely gets me. She can tell when I'm on fire, and a lot of the other people in the chat there as well. And, all it takes sometimes is just one topic or one word to set me on fire, and I'm off. So I'm a talker, and that's what the second channel will be about. I might not have anybody interested in that channel because I don't really have anything to describe it as, other than when I feel like I have something to say, I'm just going to get on the channel and say it. And I hope that there will be, other folks that, all of you perhaps, and other people that might be interested in it when it does come. Oh, yay. Another one. Liam says, I'm going to upload another Christmas themed song. So great. The one you just did was fabulous. And K Bean says, this was great. Thanks, just Rhonda. I don't recall. And Voice of the People. You're welcome. I wish Katnit had been here. She's one of my mods. She's very busy. She lives north of me. So I really appreciate Katnit for reading with us. She was reading the part of Lori McConnell. And so she's not really very fond of speaking to other people, but she was willing to read the transcript with us, and I was really pleased to have her help us out. Well, you've got those posted? Oh, okay. Well, those are probably some of your best ones, Liam. That's the way that usually goes. So I will see you guys all over in Robert's chat in a little while. And I was looking at my calendar because I'm going to change the day. I'm going to start doing this on Sundays, but I need to look and see what's going on this Sunday. What's the date this Sunday? What's today's date? This Sunday, is it the 15th? Yeah. So I should be doing something on Sunday for this channel. I don't know exactly what it is yet. like I said, the next accuser is Rosetta Great. Oh my God. I just feel like every single accuser is worse than the one before it. But anyway, hers is Rosetta Great, or the next one's Rosetta Great. It's going to be a long series. So, you know, it's going to take time before we even get to her preliminary. After I get done today, I'm going to upload this one and put together in the playlist under Carla Raines. So if you want to go back and listen to all the things, the Carla Raines, then it'll be all in a playlist for you. Yeah, it was really nice to have. Yeah, I think I'm going to do this from now on, Liam. Especially if you guys all think it works better, have this in the chat while we were reading, because it's impossible for me to engage with the chat if I'm reading a transcript or something. So I think that's kind of how we're going to do this going forward. Jennifer has very sweetly agreed to help read transcripts anytime. Anybody else who's interested in helping us read transcripts, please let me know, because you know what? It is a lot of fun. It's a great way to get to know other people too. So let me know if you want to help read transcripts, and I'll let you guys know, ahead of time. And basically, that's it. I will be doing these on Sundays from, I think, what did I decide, Cherie? Sunday afternoons. I think
1:30 is what you told me before.
1:30 Eastern. Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So 1:30 Eastern, 11:30, just like today's schedule, I guess. So plus the recorded outburst. Yeah, I know. Liam, well, you know me. I cut out a lot. I cut out a lot of my ranting because I was pretty bad and it was taking up too much time. So, okay. So until Sunday at 11:30, again, I'm not 100% certain what I'm going to have ready for you, but I probably will be the beginning of the Rosetta Great case, accuser. So, Cherie, do you have anything that you would like to help end with today?
Oh, no, you covered it well. It was interesting and infuriating
Yeah.
at the same time.
Yep. Yeah. And fun. I mean, and being in the chat with all of you guys and being able to talk through it is really helpful. It's really helpful for my health. So I appreciate you all for being here. And until next time, guys, thank you so much. Peace out.